Good morning. Welcome and thank you to those of you that have joined us for today's webinar. We've had an overwhelming response to this webinar, and I think it's testimony to the personality and the popularity of our special guest today. My name is Naseem Kathrada. I'm the Director of Human Capital at Region Business School, and I'm delighted to be your host this morning. So before we get into the formalities, I'd like to extend a very warm South African and region welcome to Mr. Sung Yoon, who's joining us all the way from his home in South Korea. Good evening, Mr. Yoon. Welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Naseem, and all the audience from South Africa. I'm glad to be here with you.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, it's our honor to host you today. At the beginning, I'd like to just extend my appreciation to Mrs. Fatima Yusuf, who's the head of our PR, as well as the technical team for putting this together today and for getting us somebody of the caliber of Mr. Yoon that we can chat to today. If you will bear with me and allow me, I just need to get through a few admin issues before we commence. Firstly, just some exciting news. We will be giving away 2 copies of Mr. Yoon's books. We've got a panel that are sitting aside and they'll be watching the chat, and they will choose the 2 contributions or questions that they felt are the most engaging, and we'll announce those winners at the end. So please, if you have a chance, please send through your questions and contributions on the chat. To keep this interactive, we're also going to ask you to look out for 3 polls that we'll be running, which are kind of resonate with some of the questions we'll be asking Mr. Yoon, just to get a sense of how your feeling is about. So please, again, participate in those polls, and we'll give you some kind of feedback at the end. Just the formalities in terms of the procedure for today. We'll spend the first about 45 minutes roughly for me having a conversation with Mr. Yoon and unpacking some of the ideas that I have with him. And then we'll take the last 15 minutes to try and answer or ask Mr. Yoon to answer as many of the questions that you've put on the chat as possible. So again, I urge you to use the chat facility and ask as many questions as you want, and I will try and pick and choose which ones we can do there. Just finally, a reminder that Region Business School obviously encourages critical discussion as an integral part of our learning, but we need to know that the opinions expressed by our panelists and you as participants reflect your own perspectives. If you'd like to know more about Regent and our offerings, please log on to our website, which is simply regent.ac.za. Okay. So, Mr. Yoon, I'm really excited about this session because you're a real personality in South Africa. Some may even say a celebrity. So having read your book, I found there were so many lessons, so many gems that we can take from it. And I really can't wait to hear from you personally, in person, as you unpack and bring to life some of those lessons that we've had. So just briefly, for those of you that may not know Mr. Sung Yoon, firstly, where have you been? But secondly, I cannot do justice to his full resume, so I'll just give you a very brief bio. Sung Yoon, and he prefers to be called Sung, as he said, he's told me, so we will try and use that, is the former CEO and president of Samsung Africa. And he's got executive experience across 3 continents, obviously in Africa, but then he's also spent thrice in the United States. He's had stints in the United States, and of course in his home continent of Asia, where he's based in South Korea. He has a track record of turning around very difficult business situations and of having significant growth in both existing as well as new products and new categories of business. Sung currently lives in South Korea, but he still, interestingly, travels to South Africa quite frequently because he sits on the board of Telkom. And of course, as you will all know by now, Mr. Yoon is, of course, the author of the book, The Samsung Man's Path to Success. And that book provides the backdrop to our conversation today. But this brief introduction is only the tip of the iceberg that is Mr. Yoon, and I'm hoping that in the next hour or so, you and I will get a better understanding of the man, the leader, and the inspiration that is Mr. Sung Yoon. As I alluded to earlier, there are many lessons we can take from your book, Mr. Yoon. And I recall one angle particularly. One of the journalists wrote an article about using the theme of behind every successful man, there is a woman. I think you'll recall this article. And that is because Mr. Yoon very frequently refers to the support that his wife gave him. So that is just one angle. And like that, there's so many other angles that we can take, but we've only got an hour today. So we need to try and find a way to focus our discussion to some extent. So I've taken into consideration, Sung, the audience that we have today, which is predominantly leaders and some aspirant leaders, so people that are aspiring to be leaders as well, okay? And I must be honest, I've also taken my personal bias as a human resources person and as a student of leadership. So I'm proposing, if you don't mind, that we try and cover 4 broad areas under the broad backdrop of transformational leadership. I'd like to explore with you a little bit more your personal and the individual motivation and what you can learn from that. Then a little bit exploration around developing cultures within organizations, because that's a recurring theme in your book. Thirdly, there's some beautiful definitions of leadership, which I'd like to unpack with you. And then finally, because we're in South Africa, we'd love to learn a bit more from you about some of the lessons on how we do business in Africa. If that's okay with you, I'd like to start with the questions, Mr. Yoon. Sorry, enough of my voice. Now let's move on to you. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm great with all those categories. And actually, you can have a separate session with my wife next time. She's a professor at one of Korean National University. So yeah, I appreciate what you said. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Yusuf, please take note of that one. There's our next webinar already sorted out. Okay, so let me start with the question around personal motivation, okay? So you obviously have a lot of success in your career. Your career in Samsung is well known, but there are also in your book a number of beautiful stories about personal success and personal triumph. And in particular, I refer to the time that you climbed Kilimanjaro, and I think you'll agree with not sufficient preparation. So physically, I don't think you had enough time to prepare for it. Yet you're one of the few that actually got to the top of Kilimanjaro. And that is testament to this incredible drive and desire that you have to succeed. So can I ask, what is behind this drive, this desire, and in fact, this ability to succeed? So what gets you there?
Well, that's a great question. And what are those behinds for my drive and the desire? That's a question. My 2 boys, they are in their early 30s, 30 and 32 years old, my 2 boys. Asked that question. They said, Dad, I cannot understand why we have been live like that. Well, but if I look back on my life, so I've been worked with Samsung over 32 years. So that will tell why I was doing my role and the work like that. So when I started late 1980s, Samsung Electronics at that time was we can say mediocre brand, or
yes,
people didn't hear about the brand at all. So the position of a Samsung television or any electronic products is almost zero, right? So for 30 years with the Samsung, that was I was there when Samsung was a mediocre brand and moved up to the global top brand. So what happened is almost every day there was a target and the execution and the review and revisit, correct. So I was lucky. That was all what I was being trained every year for over 30 years. Think about, that's not one-time project I was involved. But more important thing is my role was more of a sales, global sales. So think about my competition was, I was competing with Sony television at that time when Sony was number one brand.
Yes.
And the smartphone case recently, that's iPhone, Apple. They are icon of the innovation. So I felt like, the audience who joined the call today, probably students or graduate or the leaders, the company, think about the sports which you like. South Africans, some people like cricket, soccer, or rugby. Let's say rugby. If you are happened to be selected at the Springboks to represent the country. So every game is exciting. It's like a World Cup tournament. I have to do my best.
Yes.
Well, sometimes I lose the game, sometimes I win. But I don't want to say pressure, but responsibility, what I had is on behalf of my country, South Africa or South Korea. I'm a member of a national team and playing a very important role. That's every year, 34 years, every day. That's happened to be, I was trained, kind of trained, and don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed my life. It was a fun, like enjoy those games and my responsibility. And if I do this, and my team members can make a try or make a goal.
Yeah.
So I think I spent over 30 years or so like that. That was kind of I used to do some challenge. I'm looking for some challenges now too. Okay. So is that something?
Yeah.
Your answer to you? Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for that. For those that don't know, Mr. Sung is a big fan of the Springboks. From reading his book, you'll see a lot of that as well. Yeah. So thank you. So it's about setting yourself regular small challenges and understanding the importance of what you are. That's kind of what I'm summarizing from it. Okay. So if just to stay on the theme, I spoke earlier about the number of gems that I, as I call them, or lessons that we can. And one of the ones that you mentioned very early in the book is that, and I quote from you, "My story is not my story alone, because no man is an island." And I think about the time, for example, when you had a choice, when Samsung asked you to move into electronics, and you said that was a very fledgling business at the time, and it wasn't quite where you wanted to go, but you took the opportunity to get advice from somebody senior. And that led you to stay with Samsung, and the rest, as we say, is history. So talk to us about the importance of surrounding yourself with support and with people who can advise you.
Well, in my life, right, not very different from our audience today. My father is one of the greatest mentor in my life. I didn't know until he passed away 2 years ago. So what I learned from him is he's a very positive thinker. Right? He failed many times in his life, but was always something looking for positive way and resilience. That's something, and he lived until 95 years old. So I have a good gene from him, I believe. And when I joined Samsung, and after over 10 years, various training, I was being expected to America to do IBM account business. So my direct boss, like a CEO in Korea, global CEO, is something like this. This is the first episode of my book, which I have over 100 episodes in my book. So there was an issue. We shipped the product to IBM, and IBM sold that to Fidelity Investment, which still, the #1 global investment bank. So that was 2001, right? Over 20 years ago. So $30 million monitors we sold, like over 5,000 monitors. After 10 months, there was a tiny defect found, and we reviewed just 3, 4, 5 units out of 5,000. Within a week, our engineers reported to the GS Choi, my big boss, and his decision was this: okay, let's replace $30 million monitors right away. Everyone's shocked. No one expected we would replace, $30 million is $500 million rand at that time. If we convert this time, it's at least 10 times more than that. $300 million replace is lost. But that's something he in person made a decision, which I thought the leader should make a decision.
Yes.
And the fair decision and the faster decision. So there are many seniors who help me to understand how I can get trust. It's not Sung Yoon's individual, how Samsung can get a trust. It's the same, like whichever industry you are in or you want to part of that, like building a trust from the business partner is the key point. So that's why those people surround me. I was very lucky since I had such a great seniors and company which has grown over 30 years from mediocre brand to kind of number one or leading company. So that's why I try to share those my experience, the value of experience. It's not mine. It's from my surrounding people, including America, including South Africa and Korea globally. Those are things I wanted to share.
Okay, fantastic. So learn from those around you, and then also I see we'll talk about it later, but then passing it on to others below you as well. We'll chat about that. I just want one more very important question for me in this category of individual, right? So, you speak a lot in your book about attending, for example, executive coaching sessions. There's a lot of self-reflection and even a willingness to be vulnerable. I think about that candid video that you're allowed to be showed of you with working, through your other colleagues. Now, all of this talks to a tremendous sense of humility, and that's prevalent throughout your career. But on the flip side of that, as we've discussed, there's this immense drive and dedication and to achieve and success. Now, on the face of it, this humility and this drive seem to be incongruous. How do you balance the two, firstly? And are there any other qualities about yourself that you think have attributed to your success?
Yeah, Nasim, I think that's another good point. So, well, many people thought I'm really brave, like a hidden camera or getting executive coaching, which is a very vulnerable, opportunities. I will be open to everyone, but I like it. Why? I think I can improve from there. So when I grew up from the beginner step level up to the top management, the CEO level, I realized when I am running a meeting with our team, the participants are talking less and less and less, which is a bad signal to me. If they don't talk, right? Then it's only I'm going to talk. So I realized that's something wrong versus, I never thought they are listening me well. So what I knew from my the experience from the beginner's step level, for example, the worst leader to me was those who do not make a decision when he has to make a decision. So those things I knew a lot, and I knew if the participants do not talk each other, right, participate for the meeting, that's something wrong. That's something I learned from my early days. So that's what I thought, no, I shouldn't do that. And that's a bad signal to me. So based on that, I want to listen from them. And Samsung is a big organization. So I can lead the overall team, what we have to do, but I cannot handle every details at all because of big organization. Even not a big organization, just more than 5 or 6 employees. It's something, if they don't do their job properly, we will fail. So that's what I knew. And you said that's a humility, but I knew in order to make it happen, I should listen and encourage them to be part of the team members. And the second trait, as you said, is immense drive and dedication. It's happened to, I was trained like that, like
Yes.
almost every day started from Samsung. And probably my personality is, as I explained to you, I got those DNA from my father. So
Yes.
that's a good combination, I think. So other than those two traits, what I think, as I told you, positive thinking is not just optimistic thinking. Positive thinking is something happened. Okay, how we can fix it versus why this happened and who need get some blame type of thing.
Yeah.
And the other one is, as you mentioned, Kilimanjaro. Physical fitness is very important. Although
Okay.
we have a good thought and the leadership, if you don't have a fitness and the physicals, it's useless. So everyone needs to keep their fitness, and mental power will come from those physical fitness.
Okay. Thank you. Some interesting ones there. And I suppose typically for a humble person, you're not going to accept that's humility, but that's the way I see it very much so. But interesting about the physical, because we often tend to neglect that, as we get busy nowadays, we forget about the physical aspect of it, which is so important, of course. Okay. I want to just move over to the idea of organizational culture a little bit. You speak in your book about Samsung having a very much a culture of, or a solution-driven culture. Now, I particularly like the point in that is about how this culture actually allowed a sense of synergy amongst the staff, and it shifted their thought away from finger pointing and blaming to one of let's find the solution. That became the focus. Now, and I see there's already a question in the chat about culture, but this kind of culture, as any culture, of course, takes a long time to develop. So can you maybe just give us a few pointers on how does one develop a sense or a culture within an organization?
Yeah, Nazim, that's a great point too. As I explained to you, Samsung Electronics was founded in 1969. Okay. And until I joined 1980s, early 1990s, it's even not a mediocre brand at all. People didn't know Samsung globally. So until early 2000, 2001 and 2, what Samsung did over 30, 40 years, Samsung Electronics, we call that OEM. So well-known global brand, IBM, HP, Dell, even Apple, we made a computer or monitors in those days and put their brand, because people, the customers didn't have any confidence, credit over Samsung. So that's what we call OEM business. So those customers are buying $100 million or $500 million, $1 billion a year, big customer. So think about if they send an email asking a product quality, market information, any challenges, quality issues, we were supposed to respond within 24 hours. I mean, you can imagine because of the big scale of the business. If not, they will easily ship from Samsung to other company, right?
Sure.
So the culture over 40 years before I joined Samsung is like that. If we receive an email asking market issue, quality issue, pricing issue, then in the morning, because of time difference, when we got the email in the morning, it's the evening, night in America. So everyone got together and trying to find what will be the issue and how we can make our proposal, for example, within like by 2 or 3 p.m. Why? We have to report to our CEO for him to make a final decision. Okay. So there is no time to finger pointing or what you made type of thing. how we can fix this issue, right? If we have some technical issue, find the solution. If we are losing competitiveness, like price competitiveness, then it's not blaming other companies. How we can lower our price like by 5%, 10% by what time? So that's the culture Samsung Electronics has driven over 30, 40 years. Still, it was not quite good enough to be a global brand until 2000. So does it make sense? Like I think the leader is important. So I'm not telling you OEM is the right culture type of thing. Those companies you want to join, or if you are running, leader is very important. Leader give a chance for the staff prepare the analysis and make a recommendation proposals. And at the end of the day, he needs to make a decision. He needs to attend the meeting and understand the issue and make a decision. That helped Samsung solution-driven, execution-driven culture. So it's not that easy, right? Oh, let's move from talking too much oriented to the performance-driven company. Some company can put those slogans, but it's not working.
Okay. So you're saying it really it's largely driven by the leader to some extent, but then obviously people need to live the culture, and over time it then becomes normal. And like you said, it's taken many years at Samsung. Interestingly, we've asked a poll, we asked the audience as to whether they believe culture is driven from the top or from the bottom. So let's see what the results are relative to that. Okay. I'm mindful of time, so I want to move on to the aspect of leadership, which of course is very critical to all of us. Now, there's so many definitions that you have of leadership in your book, but I want to highlight 3 specifically, and if we can take a few minutes just to unpack each of those, I'd appreciate that, right? So the first one, and I want the audience to listen carefully because it's a bit of a mouthful, you define leadership as maximizing your strengths to influence the organization to deliver results. Now, this is a very loaded definition, and if we can unpack it, you're talking here about 3 things. Firstly is about understanding yourself, which is the strengths you speak about. You then speak about one of the key qualities of leadership, which is the ability to influence. And then you talk about the importance of having goals. And in this case, the goal is driving results. Now, we've already touched a bit about the personal traits. We've touched also a little bit about leadership skills. But if you have a few more, we can share that with us. But I'm particularly interested in the question of, besides just delivering results as your primary goal as a leader, are there any other goals that you think are important and that could resonate and still make you a good leader?
Yeah, Nazim, I think to be a good leader is, from my perspective, is sometimes it's easy to think about who is the worst leader or bad leader type of thing.
Yes.
So as I shared with the audience briefly, I started a staff at Samsung from the bottom level and grew up together with the Samsung. So I knew who is the good senior executives, right, and who were not good executives type of thing. So there are many leaders, executives who were working hard and who were, lot of experience type of thing. But for me, as you said, apart from those success itself, the result, I think leaders try to have his own clear vision. Okay. Right? Vision is not something, goal and the strategy are slightly different. I think to be a true leader of a small company, big company, or even the academic field, we need a clear vision in my case, right? Vision should be someone who can understand, where do we want to go, right? It's not numbers or type of thing. what do we want to be in 5 years, right? 10 years and 20 years. That's a vision. Based on that clear one vision, we need a set up strategy.
Okay.
Clear strategy. And that's every company has doing those things, but more important thing is how we can share those vision strategy with our the organization. It's not just the executives only. The working level employee needs to understand what's the vision and strategy. Why? If they understand that, as I told you, every organization, everyone will take their own role. So one leader cannot check every detail at all. So that's why if we understand that, and one more thing the leader has to do is regular checking. It's not like a micro, control them. It's this is important. Check the progress depending on the project or category every week or every other week, every month, or even every other day.
Yes.
And then if something goes wrong, then we need to, leader needs to help versus criticize what you made mistake, why you did that type of thing. Oh, you have that problem, then how can you fix it? You tell me.
Yeah.
If they don't have the solution, still you shouldn't criticize them.
Sure.
You have to help. Hey, based on my experience, what if we do this way? Can you do that?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
By doing that, in my case, I build up some kind of a trust. Oh, that guy, that new CEO leader is interesting. No complaint and spend a lot of time with us and sharing his thought. And if something goes wrong, he does not complain about that. He focuses on how to fix it. So what I really like the leadership is have the staff can be executive, seniors or juniors feel comfortable to come to me and say in the meeting or outside the meeting, hey, something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Probably it's because of I made a mistake, or because of our competition, they are stronger than us, or our customer, our business partners are not so much professional. So that takes a little time, but I think that's the besides company result, as you asked, any other strategy or what I try to do as a leader at Samsung.
Thank you. So I'm taking from that two things. The one very strongly is this idea behind vision. And then the second one is this idea behind the regular checkups with your staff, and it can be a very simple conversation just to make sure they're okay and if they need assistance and that sort of thing. It's a fantastic philosophy. Just before we go on, we've done 2 polls already, and interestingly, one of the polls asked the question about whether culture is from the top down or bottom up. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, 100% of people agreed with you that culture is very much driven from the top. So I think that's important as leaders to understand that we can really push culture. The other question, and again, this kind of resonates with you, we ask people whether leadership qualities are innate or learned. And I think you alluded to the fact that you feel that some of your qualities are inherited through your dad, that perseverance and that positive thinking. So, and some people do believe, and I think rightfully so, some leadership skills can certainly be learned as well. Okay, so I just want to, on the same theme of leadership then, I just want to go on to a second quotation. For me, this was the one that probably made me smile the most. You define leadership as leadership is about winning people's hearts with actions rather than words. Now, for me, that's a beautiful quote. I don't need to say anything more, but please talk to us about this.
Well, leadership, right, as we discussed, is internal leadership right, with my team when I was working in South Africa with my team, and the leadership is now globally. We have to work global organization, Samsung, right?
Yeah.
And the customer, our business partners, retailers, dealers, distributors, or telcos type of thing. So again, it's the same thing. Winning people's heart is not like trying to give what I want to tell you. Right? For example, when I started 2017 in South Africa, well, obviously the first thing I did is say, hey, let's have a meeting, introduction meeting with the big players in South Africa. So obviously we prepared a small, the preparation with our team. Most of them prepared what we want to tell. We want to sell this product, right? We want to have this type of thing. So I asked, hey, okay, got it. But however, could you tell me what do they want to discuss? Even though that's my introduction meeting, what do they want? So I think that is based on my experience in America, right? As I told you, that's from my seniors, CEOs, executives who trained me naturally to all organizations. It's not just me. So I asked, hey, guys, could you tell me what's their problem and what's our business partners' pain points? What do they want to tell? So it was kind of a shock to my team. And they prepared, we don't have enough time. That's fine. We don't need the deck. But tell me, 1, 2, 3, what do they want us? I mean, some of them are obviously difficult for us to accept, right? Or support, but most of them we have to support. So I think that's the way we winning people's heart. It's from the customer, same thing, as well as my team. So let me tell you that typical first meeting with the one big customers, business partners in Africa. Obviously, right after 5 minutes introduction, they blamed about how Samsung can do that, which you agreed, promised, and your team never came back to us how to fix it. So, hey, wait. If we didn't, follow our commitment, that's my fault.
Yes.
Right? Let's talk about how we can fix it. Tell me. I didn't know that issue, but I will check and I'll come back to you by next week. So think about, the account salesperson in my team was worried about doing the discussions and look at me several times if he will be in trouble. But I've never told about, hey, why you didn't tell me those things. So that was winning people's, one of the way winning people's heart from my team and from our customers. So I was told, hey, that guy is interested, right? Oh, so very dare to listen about the complaint, which is difficult for us to easily accept. But without going that way, pay attention about what's their pain points and how I can support. If not, we have to be very clear. Sorry, we cannot do that.
Sure.
If I can do something, please give me like 2 months, 3 months for me to fix it. And there's always good, discussions and negotiation, building trust. So building trust is winning people's heart from customer and from our internal people, I think. But in order to do that, the leader should be careful and calm and never complain about something goes wrong and always focus on how he can fix it. And he needs to drive something. That's why we leaders got more payment, senior people who can fix those problems based on their experiences.
Okay. So it's not just paying lip service. When we make a promise, we follow it up with the action, but of course, be honest and realistic about what can be done. Thank you for that. I just want to apologize. I looked at the wrong poll. The poll around the culture just came through now, but I kind of anticipated, and I think 97% of people do feel that culture is driven from the top. Those results have just come through now. I have to look at the first poll just now. Okay, so just one more on leadership, because I think this is so important. You refer to what you call the Mandela lessons, which is the need for a leadership of forgiveness and reconciliation. Now, obviously, we're all aware of Nelson Mandela, and this kind of leadership obviously has relevance in civil society. I'm just curious and to understand from your perspective, how does this leadership of forgiveness and reconciliation fit in the business context?
Yeah, well, that's true, Nazim. The forgiveness and the reconciliation, what Mandela, my understanding, Madiba did is not just simply forgiveness and the reconciliation. It's based on the situation, right? So if someone made a bad mistake, right? Unacceptable mistake in the competition, right? Think about the rugby game or soccer. If someone make the errors and mistake, then we cannot keep them over there. But if someone made some non-mistake, we lost a goal or a try, because the other side, the other player is star player. Of course, we have to protect and we have to defend those things. But for those people who didn't do their best, and I didn't have a chance to help, and even he didn't open up those opportunities, then we cannot forgive and do a reconciliation. I agree, right?
Okay.
But not every case, depending on the case. So my point is, I was not penalized when we, as I shared the first episode of my book, $30 million, 2001, when we lost. It's not my fault, but it's part of my account.
Yes,
but I was not penalized at all, right?
Okay.
Or I was more recognized because I did communication properly, right? Real time and transparent and the inside of Samsung and with the customers as well. So that's what I want to say. Depending on the situation, if they did their best, but the situation was really rough for us, then we have to think about some way of forgiveness and the reconciliation. Okay. But especially that's important for the organization, right? Management. So there's one episode in my book, that was during the Easter holiday. And my wife and I made a trip, including the weekend, 3 days, a trip to Clarence. So there was one of my staff member who sent me saying, "Oh, I got a cholera and in hospital." So I sent a flower saying, "Oh, please cover nicely." And I know their family too. But when I was in Clarence, he was walking to my restaurant when my wife and I was trying to have a lunch. So, well, he shouldn't do that type of excuse at all. He can take a day off, but since then I didn't say anything. Right? I didn't ignore that, but I didn't say anything after that happened. But I learned a lot. That person was a little notorious making excuse or type of thing, but change it. Slowly change it. He tried hard, I know. That's why sometimes it's not forgiveness and the reconciliation properly, but sometimes holding something versus talking straightforward is more powerful. So that's why I think, Mandela lesson is more of a, some political side and those things which South Korea need and global. We are fighting too much. I mean, versus something we have to give a forgiveness and reconciliation. So I agree. It's different. The forgiveness and reconciliation in business side, but I think that's still important.
Okay, that story is one that I think stands out for a lot of people. It was fascinating how you handled that, and I guess the lesson is there. You know, if we had approached him and reprimanded him, he'd probably behaved even worse. But so that's, I think that's a great example. Thanks for that. We almost out of time in terms of our conversation. In fact, it's already 11:15 in our time. But I need to really ask you this one last question in the last category. So you say that people of Africa have so much to teach us, and maybe just in a minute or so, if you can answer this. You talk about this Mandela spirit, this unimaginable potential. Now, the world sees Africa as third world, a difficult place to do business with. Yet you describe it as a continent with unimaginable potential. Please just very briefly share with us your perceptions on why do you see this potential, and how do we as South Africans who are part of Africa and yet tend to ignore Africa, how do we harness this potential?
Yeah, that's a good point too, and I'm glad to share what I'm thinking about South Africa. Obviously, yes, South Africa has a different culture and a slightly different work ethic compared to other countries. I mean, that's partly the different, historic background and the cultural difference too. But what I have a strong confidence is like this. When I joined 2017, South Africa performance inside of some global companies, countries, unfortunately, we were the lowest performer.
Okay.
But 2019, we got Global Best Practice Award.
Yes.
Especially for the supply chain operation. We were always got, kind of a lowest performance in the highest level of stock, long lasting stock, which is not good for the business at all, right? Everyone knows that. How we can change those things? Obviously, yes, the leader is important too, but I didn't do anything very unique one at all. I tried to share with them, hey, guys, let's do this way. And well, that was more of a strategy. Let's handle our smartphone this way. Let's handle our television, refrigerators, washing machine this way, supply chain. And give more support to our business partners. So what I realized is it's not just one day or 1 year. So after 3 years, we got a Samsung Global Best Performance Award, #1. And this is my understanding. When South African step from the working level, the managers and executives, if I shared strategy, some of the strategy we built together and keep sharing, hey, you can do that. And what I did is checking, hey, do you make the progress? It's not something like at the end of the month, if something goes wrong, there's no way we can fix it, right? After 2 to 3 months, it's very difficult. So I try to see the progress, and if something goes wrong, I try to help them. And gradually they came to me, hey, Sung, I cannot fix it. I see this is something wrong, I don't know. I mean, they felt comfortable. So if they knew clearly, they mean South African in general, my team were very passionate to get it done, right? So gradually, and still, I retired from Samsung 2 years ago. And I was told recently, Samsung Africa is still top tier performer, which is good. Why?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just one leader. Now, overall, the team members from the lower level, working level manager, they know what they have to do. So That's why I'm very passionate and confident we can do better. If they know, they got some exposure about the way we can fix and the way we have to go.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I think that's such an important thing for us. Sorry, just quickly, the results of the third poll. We asked the question, do humility and ambition contradict each other for leaders to achieve success? And most people, 87%, felt that they actually can coexist successfully. And I think you're a perfect example of how that, those two seemingly contradictory traits actually work together. I want to really apologize to the participants. As you can see, there are so many questions that we can ask, and we can spend hours and hours with Mr. Yoon. But I'm going to now go very quickly to some of the questions on the chat. We've already exceeded some of the time. Arish Dalu asked, and I'm in no particular order, this is as I've received them. During the journey, your success, what was it like bringing the art of leadership to the table, yet knowing that there was always a diverse culture in society and its trends that were cultivated by different people? So during your success, how did you bring your leadership through, even though there was such a diversity, having worked in America, which is a culture different from yours, having worked in Africa, which is obviously another different, very different culture. So how do you, resonate with those different cultures?
Well, actually, I got those questions quite often.
Okay.
And especially when I came over South Africa 2017, as I told you, many people asked me, hey, oh, you spent over 16 years in Samsung America, and maybe you are suffering or having difficulties get used to South Africa. My answer was at that time, like 6 years ago, and now same. No, I don't see any difference actually. Right? Slightly different name to remember. I try to remember because of the name. Other than that, I lived in many different cities in America. Like many Black people live in Atlanta, for example. So many places I worked with white and Black people. And I'm handling Samsung product, which is a slightly different product lineup. And the customers are slightly different. If that was a $1 billion customer, it's let's say less than 10 million or $100 million customer, but buying and selling is the same.
Yes.
Right. And those people work with me, it's the same. Like hey, if they have more exposure to the process and the strategy type of thing and get help, they can more. Actually, I see they are more passionate, like South Africans. So I don't see any cultural difficulties type of thing. Why? I think I can tell you. I'm not saying it's easy. I was being trained, as I shared with you, is trying to understand what they want, right? What they want to fix, what's their pain point versus what I want to teach. So that's why it was not like those people who are keep saying, cultural diversification is difficult to know. If we try to listen what they want to do,
yes,
regardless if they are our business partner or our internal employee, that's not a big different situation at all.
Okay, thank you for that. Gerard Ace asks, dear Mr. Yoon, I think that your success at Samsung is phenomenal. What would you say was the one operational decision or direction that you took that made the biggest change for the business? I don't know if there's one. There were so many that you made.
Well, no, simply speaking, this is no, that's a great question. So there are many operational issues I covered on my book, like Best Buy, AT&T, and in South Africa, IBM, many, like including Walmart as well. So it's simple, right? So let's take responsibility as a supplier. Samsung is a suppliers, and our customers are, they are buying our product and sell it to the end user customer.
Yes.
Right, through their stores or retail channel. So, thinking one point, hey, selling our product to our business partner is not the end. We need to watch whether they are selling our product to the end customers. Right? In order to do that, we need to see how many units did our business partners are selling to the consumer. We want to see their stock status. So if normal the turnover is takes 4 weeks, right? If they purchase Samsung television and sell to their store, takes 4 weeks or 6 weeks. We have to see that. If everything follows the normal situation, trend, then you don't have to worry about too much. But if they don't have it, if they have too much stock, aging stock, we call it a long-lasting stock, then we need to jump in and try to help. So some customers saying, why you are taking my responsibility? I don't want to share those information, right? Yeah, those things happen.
Sure.
And some business partner, oh, that's not bad idea. Some accept it. So the issue is that those customers who does not want to share those things. I try to explain to them based on my experience, 16 years experience with the global top brand, the Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile in America, and then the Best Buy, Walmart. So gradually they listen, and that's I want to tell just a simple. What's the magic? It's not the end of our sales from us to our business partners. We have to take care of their sales and inventory. If they have a lot of inventory, long-lasting inventory, then we have to do some special promotion and helping them a little funding, and they put some funding as well. Otherwise, that will be a disaster collectively.
Yeah.
Sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this makes sense. Thank you. So we literally have 2 minutes left. I want to beg your indulgence. There's so many questions that have come through. Do you mind if we go about 5 minutes over, or do you need to leave at 11 sharp?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
You're good? Okay, so let's try and take let's try and take at least 1 or 2 questions. And I'm going to maybe suggest to the audience, maybe we'll send you the questions to peruse in your own time. And if you feel you want to answer any of them, we can maybe hand those over to the people relevant in your own time. There's no obligation there, right? Because there's no ways we're going to go through all the questions. I want to take one from Kabelo Mohono, who says, hello, Mr. Yoon. I'd like to pose a question regarding your tenure as the leader of Samsung's operations in Africa. Throughout your time in this role, were there any instances where you faced challenges relating to ethics or social responsibility? If so, could you please share some of those with us and elaborate on the strategies you employed to address and overcome them? So I think that's a very relevant topic in South Africa around ethics, social responsibility, given our history. And I know your book alludes to a lot of that. So maybe you want to share 1 or 2 examples there for us.
Yeah. Is that question about outside of South Africa or South Africa?
No, South Africa in particular. Yeah.
South Africa.
Yes, in
particular. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, just 2 things. I think it's quite simple. I lived in Samsung America 16 years, right? Out of my years. So I can tell you, America is a very transparent country and the business. Right? I mean, it's not, everything is not, super advanced, but in terms of transparency, it is there. So, for example, sometimes they asked at the beginning, one like a Best Buy, that was on the case, vendor managed inventory, which means Samsung took over all the leftover inventories, and they will not take responsibility that they purchased from us. That's wrong. We said no. And same thing happened later on, AT&T. This is even worse. It's AT&T logo for, and there is a Samsung logo too, but that's their phone. We cannot sell, we don't have any authority to sell AT&T phone from Samsung, but they said you have to take over all the leftover inventories type of thing. So we said no. And because I knew that's not working. It's not a beneficiary thing approach both our business partner and Samsung. It will end up disaster because I knew operational those things well. So first, the Best Buy, that was 2000, I think actually 6, 7. They asked, oh, others are doing the VMI, why don't you do that? And we said, no, sorry. And they pushed us, oh, maybe we will terminate the business with you.
Yes.
But after 3 months, they came back to, the working level came back to me, Sung, don't accept VMI. This is disaster. We cannot see how many inventories belong to us, belong to the supplier. And we don't know how many units we can buy next week. So I knew those issues from the beginning, but I had some proven case. So when AT&T asked that and said, well, they were very firm position. From now in 3 months, we will not buy anything from you. That's a kind of end of the business relationship. But I explained to them, and hey, by the way, we have this one. So if you are happy with the other supplier, fine. But I'm going to develop something new. I know why you want to do that.
Yes.
It's not like your goal is not like a vendor managed inventory. Your goal is to reduce the inventory level and increase the sales and the growth. I mean, that's everyone is doing. I will help you if you share your sales status, then I will replenish all the product every day, real time. So that was good counter proposal. And that's the way we got the global best supplier from AT&T. And I got another best global best practice while I was doing AT&T, just like I got the best practice from South Africa. So I applied the same thing. First, why they ask those things? Okay, you want to grow, which is quite common sense. By reducing stock level, inventory level, you don't want to have too much inventory, aging, long-lasting inventory, and increase the sales. So in order to fix it, those companies have a different situation. So we have to develop different operational business model, which I was lucky, worked with the Samsung headquarter, operation team and the innovation team. So that's another important, leadership factor, I think. Okay.
Thank you very much. So, Kabelo Mohono, I've just got a message from the panel. They liked your question, so you are going to be, they've decided to now give 3 books, so you're one of 3 winners of the books, and somebody will contact you regarding that soon. The other 2 winners are Arish Dalu for active participation and good questions, and Martin Magadla. Sorry if I get the name slightly wrong. So the 3 of you will be receiving copies of our books. Look out for communication from us. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. I want to take the liberty of asking you one concluding question, if I may, and then we can conclude. There's a saying that I often use that says, when you've reached the top, send the elevator back down for the others. And I think that's credited to an Edith Piaf. And you seem to epitomize that idea, and talking about social responsibilities. A lot of some of the proceeds of your book are going to the Nelson Mandela Foundation. There was a wonderful Ubuntu project that you started at Samsung, where you built homes for the less privileged, again, talking to social responsibility. And then there was an empowering program, and you speak constantly about the importance of investing in education and staff. So as a successful leader, I just want you, if you can conclude with telling us why it's so important to you personally to give back, and any closing remarks for our audience before we close.
Well, Yeah, thank you, Nazim, and all the great audience. I see still 162 participants, the numbers.
Yes.
So thank you for listening about my talk. So what I think is, yes, I experienced global experience going through all the challenges. It sounds like I had such a successful life with the Samsung. The reality is no. Probably I was one of the worst, the most failure experienced employee. So I had almost every year, 30 years, I had a new role and responsibility. I moved around so many new environment, but what I tried, I enjoyed that, as I'm telling you. All those challenges and did my every possible, capabilities I did. And even though I failed, I got some valuable lessons
Yes.
and learnings. So that's what I wanted to share with our audience, and especially for those young generations in South Africa. I know many young talented people. But if you have challenges or difficulties in your life, please don't easily give up at all. Just confront it. I mean, honestly, sorry about saying this way. That's what I felt. Hey, slightly different thing compared to other countries. South Africans, sometimes if you have unknown difficulties, challenges, easily give up. Easily is too much strong. Like confront it. Even you fail, you will get some lessons and asset too. And think about Korea. As I told you, when I was born 1960s and 70s, Korea was number 2 poorest country in the world, next to Haiti. Haiti is still the poorest country, but now Korea is a G10 or G20 type of grown up. South Africa helped Korea when we had a Korean War, 1950. So how we accomplish those things? Education. People, parents, my parent generation focused education, although they barely can make their life living, but focus on education, which South Africans are very passionate on education, right? And the people really like, kind. There are many similar things. So, and passionate to do something well. So that's why I think the future, based on my true experience, it's not that bad. I think about last 3 years, COVID-19, unprecedented challenges, but we survived. We challenging time, but no one, like 2020, we didn't know we can get over like this. We are suffering a lot of the load shedding issues and those things. I hope we can get over. And for me, your question is why I want to do that. Again, I have still some energy, right? I'm still only 62 years old. And based on my experience, I want to connect something, excuse me, between South Africa and South Korea, technology and especially focusing on the energy sector. So actually, I'm doing some introduction connection between Korea, the energy, like a battery-related companies, technologies, and a couple of South African companies to make a win-win situation.
Okay, thank you very much. And I just want to say that that was completely unscripted, but thank you for highlighting education, which is obviously the business that we're in. And just a reminder to people, please, there's an opportunity, contact us, let's talk to us as well. But I want to firstly apologize to the participants for not being able to go through all the questions. We try to get as many as we can. We do have time limits. But thank you for participating, for the many, many questions that have come through, for participating in our polls. I hope you've learned something from it. If you really want to find out more, Mr. Yoon's book is available quite freely. And somebody asked the question, what is the book about? It's really a series of anecdotes and stories of Sung's life at Samsung, and through that, the lessons that he's learned and that we can take from it. And like I said, everyone will take different ones. And finally, just want to say a special thank you to Mr. Sung Yoon again. Thank you for taking the time. I know we've gone a bit over the time, and I apologize for that, but we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend with us and for inspiring us. And we look forward to welcome you in South Africa the next time you're here. Thank you, everybody. Yes, Mr. We'll leave the final word to you. Yes.
Yeah, those who, well, I just now saw the Q&A questions. There are a lot, which
Yes.
Good questions. So my email address is sungyunworld@gmail.com. So if you send those questions, I will respond to each of you.
Thank you very much. That's very, very generous of you. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.